Good morning and welcome to the Friday edition of E.W. Jackson for America. You can always tell it's the Friday edition because I'm often wearing this purple shirt with the call church on it because it's Friday, it's the weekend. I want to remind people of church on Sunday. And if you're in our area, remind you that we will be in church on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. We're live streaming at about 11:15. So be sure to join us. We're at 943 Canal Drive in Chesapeake, Virginia. And we'd love to have you. I'm teaching a series on discipleship. And I tell you, I think it's really one of the most life-changing series I've ever taught. And I think I'll be teaching sermon number 6 on it. It's probably going to go, like I said, 6 to 8 messages. Probably 2 or 3 more left to preach on this subject matter. But, you know, Jesus never said, go into all the world and make Christians. He didn't say go into all the world and make converts. He said go into all the world and make disciples. And a disciple is not simply someone who identifies as. A disciple is someone who is like because he has been taught and trained by. That's what a disciple is. The word mentor, the word apprentice, these are secular words that really, they kind of get at the same thing, because an apprentice is someone who works with someone to learn a job, and a mentor is someone who is helping someone, coaching someone, teaching someone what they need in order to be presumably successful in life. But discipleship is really the original notion, and discipleship is all about helping Christians to grow, to mature, to become everything God wants us to be in order to fulfill his plan and purpose for our lives. And the church majors, the church at large, the body of Christ at large, and I think I'm as guilty of this as anybody else, but we tend to major on getting converts as opposed to majoring on making disciples. Getting converts makes that an end in itself, but making disciples means converting is simply the first step in the process. Jesus said, if you abide in my word, not if you read it once, not if you heard it once. He said, but if you abide in my word, he said, then are you my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So I'm excited about this series. I think you will be too. You can, by the way, it's available for free online. You can see it. In fact, my Google feed has my sermon from a couple weeks ago. I don't know why. Every time I bring up my Google feed, it's there. I don't know whether it's appearing in anybody else's Google feed, but it's certainly appearing in mine. But you can get it on Facebook. You can get it on, I'm pretty sure, definitely on our YouTube channel. You can find it there, E.W. Jackson YouTube channel and Facebook. But it's on bishopewjackson.tv. It's on E.W. Jackson for America. And I'm pretty sure while... I'm not sure it's archived on the website. So forgive me, folks, because I lose track of all this technical stuff. But of course, it's on Facebook forever, and it's on YouTube forever. Well, I may be overstating the case there, but they're on there right now. They haven't taken them down. You all know YouTube had suspended me at one point. I didn't think they were going to put me back on, but ultimately they did. But now that Trump is in office, I think they're going to be a little less inclined to engage in their censorship stuff that they've been doing. I mean, you've got J.D. Vance going to Europe and lecturing them about censorship, and you got Americans, the Biden administration, and the American people, of the leftists in America, I should say, the leftists in America, wanting to really create a regime of censorship. You know, we may have forgotten about this already because so much happened so quickly. But do you all remember, I looked this up to refresh. Yeah, you all remember the Biden proposed creating the Disinformation Governance Board. Remember that? I mean, that sounds like something right out of the Gestapo or right out of the KGB. The Disinformation Governance Board. We're going to go and find out who's giving disinformation. J.D. Vance has been vindicated in his remarks to Europe, which people, the left complained about. But get this, folks, and this is where they want to take our country. I mean, this is truly shocking. 74-year-old woman in Scotland has just been arrested for a silent vigil outside of an abortion clinic, you cannot wage any kind of protest in Scotland against killing unborn babies unless you are at least 2 football fields. You have to be 2 football fields away from the clinic. What? Yeah, you have to be over 600 feet away. Over 600 feet away. But get this. This is what I really found shocking. And I don't even know how you would enforce this, but it just goes to show how these so-called, quote-unquote, democracies, see, that's what the left is talking about when they say democracy. But Vance said that the law as written in Scotland allows you to be punished even for private prayer in the home against abortion. Now, of course, some of the Scottish politicians, but I have no doubt. I mean, J.D. Vance is a Yale-trained attorney. I have no doubt that he has that on good information, that's how far it can go. Now, how you would enforce that, who knows? But the way the Soviet Union and the way communist countries enforce these things is all you need is a family member or a friend or somebody who is there to witness it to rat you out. They go to the authorities and say, I was at their house and they were praying against abortion. They were praying against the killing of unborn babies. And the next thing you know, charges are lodged against you because someone's brought a complaint. That's where the left wants to take our country. You know, that's why you've got Margaret Brennan talking about Hitler. A genocide was caused by weaponizing freedom of speech. Everybody I've talked to about that just has the same, they just shake their head and say, how can you be that much of an ignoramus? But she's not just an ignoramus. She's a brainwashed cult member. And so that makes perfect sense to her because the cult has said freedom of speech is dangerous. You see, that's where Scotland is going. And look, let's face it, folks, don't be shocked by this. I mean, it's disturbing, but this is the logical extension because, look, freedom of speech is not simply about allowing you to say what you want. It is certainly about that. But freedom of speech is about controlling the human conscience. It's about controlling what you think. If you can silence what someone says, and you can teach people that certain things are never to be said, you're only one step away from saying, and certain things are never to be thought. You're not allowed to think that way. Remember, I've talked about when they first began to talk about censoring people who were against this whole climate change hysteria, and Al Gore and others were saying, we've got to stop giving these people platforms. We've got to stop allowing them to spew their propaganda. What they were really saying was, we've got to teach people that you are not allowed to doubt climate change ideology, even in your own mind. See, what the First Amendment really protects is freedom of conscience. And what the left really wants to go after, what all totalitarianists, all tyrannical types want to go after is conscience. They want to control how you think. That's why they keep shifting the vocabulary and changing the meanings of words and forcing you to say certain things. Because if you can control what people say, you will eventually control what they think. I've said that's why California is a one-party state, because they have a whole government school system from K and maybe pre-K all the way up through graduate school that brainwashes people to think one way and only one way. We are leftists. We are collectivists. We are really anti-American. And by the time you take them through that whole process and they come out, there's only one way we think. And anybody who doesn't think the way we think, what's wrong with them? They're crazy. Because they've had that reinforced from the moment they step foot into one of these indoctrination camps that they call schools. and they take them from grade to grade to grade to grade through college, graduate school, all the way up through professional schools, medical schools, law schools, and they produce their little leftist automatons who will spew exactly what they've been taught to spew all of their educational lives. It's brainwashing. I mean, there's no question about it. I'm sure that you all saw the oh, man, I tell you, the heartbreaking report of this family that Hamas had lied and said they were alive, and it turned out that they were actually dead. And they released their bodies, and 2 of them were young children that Hamas murdered. Now, you've had people all over this country standing up in support of Hamas. Yeah, promoting Hamas, defending Hamas. And I guarantee you, folks, I guarantee you they will continue to do so in spite of this. They will continue to do so because they're brainwashed. Now, someone has pointed out, a number of people have pointed out, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, none of these organizations, none of these terrorist organizations could be doing what they're doing without the support of Iran, without the financial backing of Iran. So in effect, really, Iran is financing the killing of babies. Iran financed October 7th. And who financed Iran? Joe Biden. Billions of dollars released to Iran. Now, again, you have to ask the question, why would you do that? Knowing that Iran hates America, wants America to be brought down, hates our main ally in the Middle East, Israel, wants them to be destroyed, wants them to be annihilated. They want a genocide against them. They'd probably like to have a genocide against America as well. But I think they just as soon subjugate us and have us under their thumb. That would be fine with them too. Why would you finance an organization like that? Why would you do that? Again, folks, it's cult-like thinking. Because it doesn't make a bit of sense on a rational basis for you to be releasing billions of dollars to your enemy. And by the way, there's no force on earth that could have, there's no authority on earth that could have forced Joe Biden to do that. No court would be ordering him to do that, because no court in America would be ordering him to do that, because it would be a violation of separation of powers. And you can't tell the president what to do on foreign policy with regard to our dealings with a foreign adversary. No international tribunal could do it, because the president is not bound to obey anything that anybody at the UN or anybody else says. So why would you do it? You do it because you're brainwashed into thinking that this is what our cult says we should do. This is, after all, Iran is they're just good people. Yeah, the Iranian regime, they can be dealt with, they can be reasoned with. But here's a little underlying thing. Now, I don't know whether Joe Biden has consciously even considered this, because I don't know that Joe Biden is cognitively aware enough of his surroundings to be able to think through anything. Notices he's completely silent. I think it's probably because after he's left the presidency, he's suffering a very, very precipitous decline. I'm serious. I think that's the reason why you're not seeing or hearing anything from him right now. He's probably sitting in a rocking chair somewhere drooling, and they're just trying to take care of him. Because they were propping him up in the first place, but now there's no need to prop him up and try to make him look like he's aware of what's going on. And so now he's probably in a pretty steep decline. That's obvious. That's impossible to hide. So they're hiding him instead. But the people around him share something in common with Iran. You know what that is? They hate America. They hate America. And folks, we just might as well admit it, that the Democrats are filled with people who hate this country. And many of them have said so, that they think America needs a comeuppance. I remember what I think it was Bernie Sanders' campaign manager who said, if America gets attacked, it'd probably be a good thing because we need to be brought down a notch or two. Yeah, it was one of Bernie Sanders' campaign officials. We need to be brought down a notch or two. They really hate our country, and they think America's the problem. And so financing a nation like Iran that hates America is something that they would just do viscerally. It is why remember when we started to talk about China being the source of this COVID virus and that this might be a biological attack or biological warfare, do you remember what they began to say? Racism, 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 anti-Asian, you know. Because from their perspective, that's what America is. America has no legitimate differences with China. We're just racist. And we just attack China because we're anti-Asian. That's the way they look at the world. That's the brainwashing that has just completely fogged up their minds, and they have no ability to see reality for what it is. I mean, the same people that they defend would blow their brains out and give no thought to it. Wouldn't give it a second thought. They've done the same thing with Islam. I mean, here we are now facing who knows what kinds of threats with all the people who've been allowed into our country, and I hope we'll round these people up and get them out of here. But what was the left's response? Their concern was not whether America would be attacked again. Their response was, well, we cannot allow ourselves to become Islamophobic. In any association, remember Barack Obama during his administration would not allow anybody in his administration to mention Islam and terrorism in the same breath or sentence. You could no longer call it Islamic terror. Remember that? And some of them are they still talk that way. In fact, I think some of our conservatives have bought into it. When the primary terror threat we face is Islamic. And these people, no matter what they say, they are not, I mean, you know, they want to try to make us think that somehow, again, like George Bush stupidly says, Islam is a peaceful religion, and these people have just hijacked Islam. Every time I hear that they've hijacked Islam, I mean, give me a break. Hijacked Islam. Islam has been violent, bloodthirsty, genocidal from the beginning. That's who Muhammad was. Muhammad was the perfect Muslim, and if you follow Muhammad, you will kill the infidel, because that's what Muhammad did. Now, where are these people coming up with this? Oh, no, Islam is a peaceful religion. Based on what? Oh, you can find a couple of verses in the Quran that talk about hospitality to one who visits you and all that. But that's just Middle Eastern culture. Like I said, Muhammad didn't have a divine revelation than I was going to say that my son has 3 dogs, and one of his dogs did. In fact, they probably came closer because they were in a Christian home. All he did was he wanted something that would allow him to fulfill his political ambition to unite the Arab world under his hegemony, his leadership. And so he bought a little bit from Christianity and a little bit from Judaism, and then a lot from his own crooked mind, and he came up with this religion. That's all it is. I'm not saying wasn't delusional enough that he thought somebody was talking to him, and maybe somebody was, but it was the devil. Yeah, I said it because it's the truth. It wasn't Almighty God. It wasn't the God of the Bible. It wasn't the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It wasn't the God of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Because the Quran specifically denies that God can beget, and specifically denies that God has a son. That is in direct contradiction to the Bible, so it can't possibly be the same God. But that's to the side. You got the left running around. No. You're Islamophobic. You're Islamophobic. No, I'm a truth teller. And I'm not willing to let somebody burn my country down, blow my country up, because you got a bunch of weak-kneed, mealy-mouthed, brainwashed leftists who want to, oh, well, we can't say that. Oh, no, we can't say that. No. Yeah. You know, Munich and Neville Chamberlain. Oh, no. Hitler's out. We can work with Hitler. Oh, yeah. I had a great conversation with him. Wonderful guy. Easy to deal with. Peace in our time. He held up the Munich Agreement. Peace in our time. And Hitler was loading his weapons, while Neville Chamberlain was reassuring the world that everything was fine and that Hitler was not going to be a problem. And that's exactly what we got the left doing today. Same thing. So I did not mention, and I want to congratulate Kash Patel. He has been confirmed as FBI director. As I've said, some of these nominees I'm not enthusiastic about for spiritual reasons, but I really believe that President Trump has a right to appoint whom he chooses, and that these people will be following his leadership and doing things the way he wants them done. And I think that is our little insurance policy. And I think the way the president is moving is the right way. So, I mean, we just got to give him the benefit of the doubt. In fact, I said early on, when he began to make his appointments and sign executive orders and whatnot, that the only way I'd be happier is if I were president. But I'll tell you, I'm going to amend that, because I really believe that President Trump would be is a better president than I could have been. And I'll tell you why. Because I believe that first 4 years as president of the United States gave him an education unlike any other president because of what he had to go through. And then having 4 years to reflect, to deal with all the opposition that continued against him as he ran for re-election, again, gave him an additional education that I just don't have. And frankly, nobody has. Nobody has except him. So I think in that sense, I've really been rethinking that and thinking to myself, I don't think I would have the wherewithal, the ability to do what he's doing because of the unique experiences that he has had that nobody else has had, including me. And I'll tell you something, folks, believe me, that's big. Spiritually, I'm thinking, well, maybe the proper role for somebody like me with a president like him would be whispering in his ear saying, Mr. President, put God first. Mr. President, the word of God says this. Mr. President, keep in mind, you are a Christian. You said you're a Christian. Keep this in mind. In other words, kind of being his Christian conscience. But look, I think anybody would be hard pressed to compete with the level of effectiveness and that this man is bringing to the office, and that includes me. I am backing off of my original statement. The only way I'd be happier is if I were president. Folks, I don't think I could do the job he's doing. I think that you have to be Donald Trump right now in order to be doing what Donald Trump is doing. So let's be praying for him and trusting in God that he just keeps doing it. And he is doing it. Look, 95% drop in illegal aliens crossing our border. A 95% drop. Do you remember Mayorkas telling us that the border was secure? Well, if the border was secure, why have we had a 95% drop in the number of illegal aliens crossing into our country? I mean, obviously it wasn't secure. But again, the fact that he could sit in front of Congress and say that the border is secure, you see, it goes back to that cult-like thinking. Because you got people pouring over the border in the millions, and then you stand up and you say the border is secure. And look, he was lying, obviously. But I really believe that, again, this cult-like thinking probably had him convinced that he was telling the truth. Because remember, part of what it does is it divorces you from reality. So you don't see reality. You see what the cult tells you you're supposed to see. And then when someone questions you about it, you get indignant because you realize the problem is that they're not the enlightened ones. They don't see what you see. They're not members of the cult. If they were members of the cult, they would agree with you. Because you're right and they're wrong. But Donald Trump has brought reality back to the government. And Donald Trump has said, no, we 95% reduction. And now he's going after these illegal aliens who are criminals. And then after that, we're going after the rest. Which is exactly what we should do. And by the way, exactly what I predicted is happening. Because of the crackdown, people are making a different decision. Biden threw the floodgates wide open and said, oh yeah, come. Well, whoever, come, just come. We'll give you an app. We'll give you some money. We'll give you a phone. We'll put you up in a luxury hotel. We'll buy you some food. We'll fly you to the city of your choice. Just come on. Well, no wonder you looked up and saw caravans of thousands of people headed for the border. Not seeing that now, are you? Because they know that's not going to work. You're not going to bum rush the border of the United States of America anymore and just walk across. That's not going to happen. We're not going to allow it. There is a new sheriff in town. We have a new president, and he's made clear that his responsibility to the American people and as president to the execution, the faithful execution of our laws, is to secure the border, which is part of our legal system. We are a sovereign nation. We have borders, and we have prescribed ways in which people may enter our nation, and people coming across our borders at non-designated points, just coming across because they can, are illegal invaders. Well, that may be redundant, but they're invaders, and they're illegal, and they've got to be rounded up and sent back. And that's what the president is doing. Praise God for it. In addition to that, look, he's designated the cartels as terrorist organizations. Apparently, some of them. This is very specific by name. Now, again, ask yourself the question, why didn't Joe Biden do that? He knew that fentanyl was coming across the border. He knew that they were human trafficking young people. He knew that young people were dying in the Rio Grande. He knew that they were dying on the trek over. He knew that they were coming in prostituting women and making women sex slaves here in the United States of America that they were paying to bring over. He knew that they were basically enslaving people who had to work for them in order to pay back the cost of them ferreting them across the board. He knew all of that. He knew that he was enriching the cartels. I forget the number now, but millions of dollars every single day, maybe tens of millions. But he knew he was enriching them. The cartels are far wealthier now than they were before Biden came into office because they went from having a drug empire to having a drug and human trafficking empire. And they have Joe Biden to thank for that. They asked the question, now why wouldn't he have designated them terrorist organizations, since they were clearly a threat to the national security of the United States of America? And while they might not have been sending incendiary bombs, they were certainly sending a drug bomb, fentanyl, across the border, which was killing up to 100,000 Americans a year. That's worse than a bomb, in one sense at least, because it's far more effective at killing a lot of people and far more difficult to stop. I mean, a bomb is a horrible thing, don't get me wrong. You know, it kills 5, 10, 15, 20 people. But, you know, in order to kill 100,000 people, you need a lot of those. But you can send fentanyl across the border and kill 100,000 Americans, and there's barely a peep. Why wouldn't Biden have taken that step? Because the cult said that we don't need to do that. Look, folks, again, you know, the truth can be ugly sometimes, can't it? It's beautiful when you love it, but it can be ugly when you are unveiling things that people would rather you not know. But the fact of the matter is, now I'm not being hyperbolic here. This is the fact of the matter is, the cartels were helping Biden and the Democrat Party to get illegal aliens into the country. And the last thing in the world they wanted to do was to stop them. Now let's just be honest with ourselves. I said they should have been sending royalty checks to Joe Biden because they were working together. I'm not saying they ever met or talked, obviously. I'm not implying that. But that's the reason why they never designated them terrorist organizations. Why would they? They want to flood the country with these illegal invaders, these illegal aliens. They want to flood the country with them because they see them as a key to their future political power. And the cartels are facilitating the process. Why in the world would you want to do anything that would inhibit them? That's why they didn't designate them as a terrorist organization. Because they were helping it. Hey, folks, think about this. You remember the literally hundreds of people coming to the border wearing Biden t-shirts? Who do you think printed those t-shirts? Now just think about that. Who do you think printed those t-shirts? You think these poor people coming on this long trek, you think they stopped and they took money first and said, well, now we've got some money. Let's make some Biden t-shirts because we want to look good as we get across the border. Who do you think printed those? Who do you think produced those? The cartels, of course. Of course. And I tell you something, when I was running for president and went and visited the border at Eagle Pass, we actually saw some Border Patrol arrests. We saw some encounters. I don't know whether they were arresting them or just helping them, but at that point, because they were under orders really not to stop anybody from coming across. But folks, we were all, I had a team of 4 or 5 people with me. We were all amazed at how good some of these people looked. I mean, they had fresh haircuts. They were dressed well. Some of them had on very nice clothes. And we're thinking, these are illegal aliens? See, I think we were looking at some people that the cartels had sent. Some of those people, not all were like that, but some of them were. I think we were looking at some of those people. They had plenty of money because they were working for the cartel. They lacked nothing. But Joe Biden wouldn't stop them, wouldn't stop the cartels, wouldn't stop the illegal aliens because they saw it as a political benefit to them. So right now, you see, the cult is having a lot of its props knocked out. Their future political fortunes were in bringing people into the country, rewarding them handsomely with everything imaginable. Now we know $22 billion spent allowing illegal aliens to buy homes, buy cars. So it was more than just phones and hotel rooms and food and clothing. I mean, they were giving them big ticket items to help them get settled in our country. Why? Because they see them as the Democrat Party's political future. That's why they were doing all that. We didn't know they were doing all that until Doge revealed all this stuff to us. But that's why they were doing it. Now, President Trump is stopping all of that. President Trump is coming against the cartels that were facilitating all of that. President Trump is revealing all of these boondoggle payments that are nothing but political rewards to their friends and their allies to help them, again, get and stay in power. And he's stopping all of that, this USAID, this big facility, this big framework, this big, monstrosity of a monument to their power and their influence and all that. Suddenly the government looks at it and finds out that they've complied with none of the code, that they've done nothing right, and the whole building needs to come down. I think that's a fair analogy for what is happening right now. The Democrat Party has violated every rule, and they certainly violated the spirit of the Constitution, because again, the spirit of the Constitution says that government's power is limited, as well as the letter, and protects. Remember, the Constitution was not written primarily to empower the government. It was written to protect the people. So the Bill of Rights says government may not encroach on the people and their fundamental rights. You can't engage in unreasonable searches and seizures. You can't hold people without, you can't take property, you can't take liberty from people without due process of law. You can't inhibit people's freedom of speech. Written to protect the rights of the people. The spirit of the government is it is a document of specific and enumerated powers of the government designed to protect the liberty of the people. The Democrat Party doesn't see the Constitution that way. And to the extent that it is that, they don't like it. Because their idea is we are not a constitutional republic, we're a democracy, which means that whatever the majority can agree on, we can do no matter what the Constitution says. That's really where they are. We can do whatever we want to do. And of course, we've seen them do that again and again. Barack Obama with the so-called dreamers. I can't do anything about that. I don't have the constitutional authority, but then he did it anyway. Joe Biden about school loans. I can't do anything about that. I don't have the constitutional authority, but he did it anyway. Because they don't really care what the Constitution says. They only care what they want. And everything they do that's in violation of the Constitution is done to protect our democracy. And anything we do in keeping with the Constitution, that's a threat to our democracy. But see, that's the flip, isn't it? Calling good evil and evil good. Anything that they want to do that's against the Constitution is protecting our democracy. Anything we want to do that is in keeping with the Constitution is a threat to our democracy. Yeah, it's a cult, folks. It is a cult. Make no mistake about it. Well, let me see. Oh, yes, let me correct something. A couple things. One is the president's nominee for labor secretary, well, actually not correct, but fill in. I said I was trying to think of the law. I found it's the PRO Act that she was supportive of. And it was an act that would limit the ability of states to create right-to-work frameworks so that nobody could be forced to join a union. She was in favor of that PRO Act that would really, in effect, potentially eliminate right-to-work states, eliminate their ability to create right-to-work frameworks. She's backed off that now. She says, I'm no longer opposed to right to work. I'm no longer in favor of the PRO Act, she's saying. I had backed off my support for that. She's now embracing Republican right to work laws. So see, this is what I mean. You get these nominees, and on the face, at least based upon their record, you think, not so sure about that. But in all cases, so far at least, they seem to be saying, I am here to fulfill President Trump's agenda, not my own. So you see people like Robert Kennedy say, I am not going to pursue a pro-abortion agenda. I am going to adhere to President Trump's pro-life agenda. By the way, that's something for another discussion, which is to what extent President Trump is still upholding and defending the pro-life principle. I think more than we're giving him credit for. When J.D. Vance goes to Europe and talks about these things, J.D. Vance shows up in person at the March for Life. President Trump sends in a video. I think that the president is trying to be smart about this. My only issue is, while I don't have any problem with this trying to be smart about it, my only issue is that we are never going to win the battle to save the lives of unborn babies without a dramatic shift in the culture of the country. And I've said before, it is the same kind of shift that ended slavery and Jim Crow. Now, that was a political battle initially, but eventually we won the hearts and minds of the American people. You won't find anybody now saying, oh, I think Jim Crow was a great thing, or I think that slavery was a great thing, or we ought to go back to that. It's appropriate to enslave people. Some people need to be enslaved. I mean, no rational Americans think that. And if somebody actually said that in any serious way, the American people would say, well, you're nuts. Because we know better now. There's been a change in the culture. And that's what's got to happen, folks, on the pro-life issue. We've got to get to a point where in our heart of hearts, and you and I, of course, are already pro-life. Those of you watching me, there might be some who are not, but most of you watching me are already pro-life. In our heart of hearts, we know it's wrong, and therefore we want our entire legal system to reflect the fact that we know it's wrong. It's like we have a 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments to the Constitution because we now, and nobody's saying, well, we need to repeal those because we all know that slavery was wrong. Involuntary servitude was wrong. I mean, we're not going to bring back involuntary servitude either. I mean, we're not going to bring back, it wasn't called involuntary servitude. Oh, you all know what I'm talking about when they, indentured servitude. Yeah, we're not bringing that back because that's slavery. It's just slavery for a limited time. And we're not going to do that because we know that that's wrong. You're violating the dignity of a human being to do that. Well, we need to see the American people realize that we are violating the dignity and the sacred life of a human being to kill an unborn baby. That's why we are proposing this constitutional amendment that I've talked to you all about. And I'll just read it again. And by the way, if you want to learn more about these constitutional amendments, go to our website, standamerica.us, and click on petition, and it'll take you to the page that's got all the constitutional amendments on it. But here's the one on life. Remember, we got one on birthright citizenship. Here's the one on life. For purposes of equal protection under this Constitution, the laws and applicable legal rights of citizens of the United States of America, life and personhood shall be recognized from the moment of conception. Life and personhood shall be recognized from the moment of conception. Now, I know that people say, man, the implications of that are profound, and they are. And I'm not telling you, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to you that I've thought of all the potential implications. But I'll tell you one thing, I have thought of this. It's right. It's right. And whatever the legal or social or cultural implications are good. And if there are any side issues that, well, you didn't think about this, you didn't think about that, pain and a scar on the American conscience to be doing it. And that's what we've got to come to, because we are killing an unborn baby with all the same human potential that you have and that I have. That baby is just like what you and I were when we were conceived in our mother's womb. No different. The only difference is we were blessed not to be murdered in our mother's womb, and we've got a whole industry that is dedicated to murdering as many babies as they can. And as I've said before, Roe v. Wade, the overturning of Roe v. Wade was a great event, because what it proved was that there is no constitutional right to kill an unborn baby, period. But the number of abortions has increased, not decreased. The number of killings of unborn babies, I should say, has increased, not decreased, because they're now using chemicals to do it. And the states that have shut it down, people are leaving those states and traveling to one of these baby killing states to go kill their unborn baby. And this is not merely, the constitutional amendment is really to bring, I'd love to see it passed, by the way, and I'm not saying it's not, with God all things are possible, so who knows, maybe we can pass it. But the real point is to bring the debate to the fore. What are we killing? Or better stated, who are we killing? That's going to do it for today, folks. I'll be at my church this coming Sunday, 943 Canal Drive in Chesapeake, Virginia. Come on over. I'll be teaching another sermon on discipleship, and I'd love to have you. We're there at 11 a.m., and we'll be live streaming at 11:15, so you can watch us on any of our outlets if you're not able to be there, but you want to see the message, you want to see and hear the message. In the meantime, first, have a wonderful weekend. We're still snowed in Southeast Virginia, but tomorrow and Sunday, a lot of the snow is going to be gone. The roads are going to be clear, and apparently by Tuesday it's going to be in the 60s, and probably by midweek or so, all of this stuff is going to be over. But in the meantime, those of you who are snowed in, stay safe, stay warm, enjoy your weekend, and remember to stand up, step up, speak up, and refuse to back up. Because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit. Because we are on God's side. God bless everybody, and have a great weekend.